welcome to Ask the Mayor. I'm Curt Morris, the Mayor of San Dimas. My usual co-host, Blaine Michaelis, is doing something else this evening, but we're devoting our entire program to discussing the career of Theresa Bruns, who is down to tomorrow is your last day?
Tomorrow's my last day.
Of your, as somebody said, for your permanent summer vacation.
Permanent summer vacation starts tomorrow.
And so if any of you would like to call and talk, ask questions, whatever you would like to do, we'd be happy to do that. We're, as our usual program, primary thing is to take calls from you if you have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to talk about. But we really are privileged to have Theresa join us. She's had a tremendous career at San Dimas and a pretty good career before that too, right?
I'd say so. 36 years of public service.
36 years. What city did you start with?
I started with the city of El Monte. I started as a part-time recreation leader. After a couple of summers, I then became a full-time recreation coordinator and worked full-time with the city of El Monte for about 3 years or so, and then I went on to the city of Duarte, where I served as recreation supervisor, and I worked there for just over 5 years. And then I had the great opportunity to come to this fine city, the city of San Dimas. So I've been here since 1991, and I started in the position of recreation manager here. And I worked 13 years as recreation manager, and then now have been 14 years as Parks and Recreation director. So it's been a good long career.
When did you first decide that you wanted to work in Parks and Recreation?
Well, you know, I think, and I tease our recreation staff, that once you start working recreation, there's sort of a recreation bug that hits you, that bites you. And when I started as a part-time recreation leader, I basically was just working a summer day camp, and then I rolled into after-school day camp programs while I was going to college. And my intent at that time with school was to teach. I wanted to be a teacher, and recreation was a close second to that, working with kids all day long and enjoying that atmosphere and environment. And then when it came time when I finished my degree, and in those days you did a year of student teaching for a credential program, and you did that student teaching without pay. And by then I was working pretty much full-time in recreation, and I decided that I loved what I was doing, and I wanted to continue to pursue what I was doing. And if they would pay me to do that, then that was all the better. And so I forewent that decision of making the student teaching year, credential year, and stuck with recreation. And the rest is history.
And it all worked out very well.
It's worked out really well. And I think part of it, I told somebody the other day, is a lot of, I think what life is about for us is being in the right place at the right time, and for opportunities to be available when you're ready for the opportunity to be available. And I consider myself pretty fortunate. The timing of opportunities and the timing of when I was ready to pursue those opportunities.
Well, I can tell you as a member of the City Council, it was very good timing for us. And we're happy you had the opportunity to spend your career here. I don't know, I'm sure many of the people who might be listening know something about what Parks and Recreation does, but I doubt that very many people know the scope of all of the things that we do. So would you kind of touch a little bit on what basically was your job here in San Dimas? What did the people that you were the director for, what did they do?
Well, in San Dimas, we have 3 divisions within the department. So it's called Parks and Recreation, which sounds like it should be 2 divisions, but we have 3. We have the Parks Division, which is our landscape maintenance staff that's primarily responsible for the parks, the parkways, the medians, the community trees, all the landscape maintenance throughout the city. So that's a full division in and of itself. Then we've got the Recreation Division, and the Recreation Division is, as it sounds, that group of people that are responsible for all of our special events throughout the city, all of our recreation classes and programs, from tiny tot programs to youth programs, teen programs, senior citizen programs, classes, excursions. We have a very generous, wide variety of program opportunities for recreation. And then the third division in the department is the facilities division. And the facilities division is the staff that maintain this facility, City Hall, all of our public buildings within the city. And that includes the senior center, the community building, the Martin House, the Walker House, all of the restrooms at the park facilities, the recreation center at Marchand Park, recreation center at Ladera Serra Park. I think we've got 18 total facilities throughout the city that they're responsible for the maintenance of.
And many of those facilities are available for the public to rent for events or private events.
That's right.
How many different buildings do we actually have that are available for people to rent?
For rent, let's see, let me think a minute and let me look at my little cheat sheets. We actually have 5 buildings, and pretty much soon to be 6 once we open up our new Marchand Park building. But we've got the community building, which is probably our heaviest rental use facility, especially after our remodel, when we moved back into City Hall and finished the community building remodel in 2011. We expanded that facility so that we can hold up to 350 people banquet style in that facility. So a nice big facility. Then we also rent rooms at the senior center, primarily the multi-purpose room, which again is a nice banquet room that'll hold up to 120 people, banquet style. We rent Ladera Serra Park for parties. The bulk of the rental business there is kids parties, birthday parties. Sometimes we've got business meetings, corporate meetings, things like that are held there. We also have the San Dimas Recreation Center, which the rental activity there is centered around, again, parties. We do what we call splash parties or birthday parties, where you can rent the pool and we can rent the student union, our teen center, and we have staff that will run activities with that too. We also have some groups that just rent pools for pool parties. A lot of the schools at the end of the school year will have a summer party that includes use of the pool. And then Marchand Park will be opening soon. We have a grand opening scheduled for July 28th, so we invite the community to come out for that.
You're going to come back for
I'm
that?
going to come back for that grand opening because I got to tell you.
Without pay, of course.
Without pay, right. But I'm pretty excited to see the opening of that building. It's a very nice building, and that too will be available for rental for parties and groups as well.
You have had a lot of good projects during the time you've been here, so it's kind of nice to finish with Marchand Park.
That's frosting on the cake, I guess, is what we'd call that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the last couple of years especially have gotten to do some landscape projects, some park projects, median island projects, but to actually build a new building, or we took the building that was there down completely and built a new building, has been really exciting. And the whole process around the planning, the design process, and just preparing for that construction has been very, very fun. A new aspect for my career, and something to be very happy to end on.
The process there, I think, was interesting in the way cities are able to go about and doing things. Originally, the plan was to remodel and do something with the building that was there, which would have required an extensive remodeling and some expansion. And then as we went along, a decision was made that was not the best thing for the next 50 years.
Right.
And you build a new building. That really, and the thing that I think that our buildings that we've done here, and the City Hall, I believe, is a good example of this, is that the people who actually use these facilities, the staff people, have had a lot of input in the design.
Right.
so that they work.
That's true, exactly.
They're not just pretty, they're whatever, but they work. But we also have nice looking buildings.
I think we do. I think you're right.
And that's a good thing. I of course, I'm going to get a very biased view from you, but not everybody makes the commitment that San Dimas does to the facilities, parks, and facilities in general, and the wide range of programs that we offer. Now, why is it that we do that?
Well, I think because the city council believes that it's important, and you've hired staff that is vested and dedicated to providing the best and the most varied and valued programs and opportunities that we can for the community. And much of what we do is with a moderate budget. I mean, the Parks and Recreation Department doesn't have a huge budget, but we provide a lot of services, and many of the services are fee-based. So there's a revenue string that comes along with that.
But they are very reasonable.
They're very reasonable, and I think we pride ourselves on that as well. That there's a cost, so that there's a value for that, but it's a reasonable cost that's affordable. And we also have a scholarship program that's available too.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the scholarship program?
Okay. We have some money that comes to the city through the Community Development Block Grant Program, and I think our budget is $10,000 a year that we allocate to families that are low to moderate income, that are in need for some support so that their kids can participate in recreation programs. And it's a youth scholarship, so it's only available for our youth activities and youth programs. But each year, we allocate our full $10,000, and basically that serves about 50 kids. Because the way that we've set up the program is that each child that's eligible can have a maximum scholarship award of $200 for the year. And it's a fiscal year. So July 1 through June 30th, families apply, and then each of their children is eligible for up to $200 to be expended in the enrollment of any of our recreation activities.
How far does that go to meet the demand? Are there additional people that would like to participate and we run out of money?
We have a small waiting list, and it varies over time. But I'd say that program could be expanded a little bit, maybe another couple $1,000s or so easily to be expended. But at various given periods of time, there's more demand than others. But we consistently service those at least 50 children each fiscal year.
I think it's really, to me, it's very important that the attitude is that, and I think it is the attitude, that we should try to serve everybody that wants to be served, and not have anybody shut out because
Exactly.
they don't have money to pay for things. So I've been a big supporter of that scholarship program. I think that's among the best money use that we have.
And we appreciate your support of that, because we agree. And there also are times, even outside of the scholarship program, where if we find that a child has a need that can't be met, that we work out another arrangement or a different way to help them as well.
I think that your staff is really open to making things work.
We try.
And I give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, and again, it's that I think we've got a very dedicated staff that's passionate about what they do.
I think another thing that's Parks and Recreation in San Dimas, a little bit like a lot of the leadership, there's a lot of continuity and there's not a lot of turnover.
Right.
When you look at 27 years, we've had two people, two very qualified directors.
Right.
It's just, that's a helpful thing, and particularly when you just stepped right in when Sally left, and so there was no break, no it worked well.
That was very fortunate.
And we've had long tenure with the city manager, who, now that he's not here, I think we could both say we think is one of the best.
Absolutely.
How many people does it take? And I'm including full-time, part-time, and volunteers, because I know you have a lot of volunteers.
We do have a lot of volunteers, and that's kind of a tough answer, or a question to answer, in that some of that varies seasonally. For most of the year, except for the summertime, let me sort of take a step back. As far as our staff is concerned, right now we have a staff of about 22 full-time staff in the department. And then we've got anywhere from a dozen to probably 60 full-time staff in the summertime. And then on top of that, as you mentioned, volunteers. And I would venture to say, on an annual average, between volunteers at our Senior Citizen Center, volunteers at our youth center, volunteers in our sports program, we would, I'm guessing, probably have about 150 volunteers throughout the year at any given period of time that we're working with, which save us a tremendous amount of money in budgeting. That those are people that stretch our budget dollars because we're not paying them as staff, but they also are giving back to their community too. Yeah. And so it's a win-win.
It really does enable us, volunteers in a lot of areas, enable us to provide services we just could not otherwise provide.
And it also, for some of the programs where we have volunteers, it sort of enhances our services.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Where they can get a different level of detail with what they're working with the program, and just, to make it a little bit better through their enhancement. And we also have a lot of youth volunteers.
Well, I know you do.
Which is really very fun.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we have a fair number of kids that come from San Dimas High School, and there's a couple of groups that work specifically with us. There's an Honor Society group, a Scholastic Federation group, but then we also get a lot of individual kids that are fulfilling their service hour credits just for school graduation. And I think what's most fun about working with the kids is it's sort of like when I started, you kind of learn some skills. You develop a relationship with staff that you're working with. They learn customer service. They learn, to be able to organize and provide leadership. And then hopefully, and it's happened several times, where then they become part of our staff, whether after graduation, or let's say they become lifeguard certified, and then they become a lifeguard, or and they get hooked with that recreation bug too, and stay with us for a while as either rec staff, or even we have a couple of staff that have gone on and now are in full-time positions in other agencies, and even in administration in other cities and departments. So
that makes you feel good, I'm sure.
Makes me feel very proud.
Yeah,
that we knew them when.
Why don't you just give us a little flavor of some of the things that you felt in your career have been important in the things you've been able to accomplish, in the people you've worked with, whatever you'd like to comment on, because this is really looking back at a pretty great career, and just share a few highlights. We won't even ask for any lowlights.
Okay.
I'm sure there are some of those too.
There might be a couple.
Although I will say that I have been in situations where Theresa has been involved, where there have been people with complaints. And Theresa's method of dealing with that is just meet it head on. Not in a defensive manner, but just to deal with people and work it out. And I've been amazed at the number of things where people can be kind of upset, and frequently over not something really to be upset about, but I have learned, and I know you have learned, that sometimes people get upset about things that you think are not all that important, but they are to them.
They are to them.
And I've admired your opportunities, and I know that people don't always think about it, but you know, sometimes the mayor gets telephone calls from people that their son who's playing Little League doesn't get to bat often enough. And we do have an involvement with Little League, but we don't tell them what to do.
Right.
But why don't you just maybe take a chance, and I'm sure you've thought back over these years of what of the things that have really you looked back and said, wow, that worked out well. Well,
it's interesting because I think you hit the nail on the head, and a lot of what I try to instill in the staff that I work with and the people of the community and the participants in the programs that we encounter is, you know, I think the first and foremost important aspect of what we do is to be available and accessible. And that remembering that we work for the community. That's our job, to provide service to the community. And it's our job to listen. It's our job to be empathetic and understand. It's our job to attempt to satisfy or to remedy situations, although we may not always be able to completely do that or to, you know, give people exactly what they're looking for or want. But it's our job to pay attention and to do the best that we can in that. And one of the things that I remember, it's almost like a light bulb went off or clicked or went on, whichever way it is, but it's very difficult when you work in public service and when you have people that may be upset or that may have a concern or a complaint. It's difficult not to become defensive or to feel that it's a personal attack. But I remember at one point in my career, and it was after I was a director, when I suddenly realized that what they're telling me is an advantage to me, and it is of an aid to me in how I can do my job better and how I can lead our staff to do their job better. Because when we understand and recognize what's important to others, then it helps us to be able to provide a service that's important to them. And I always tell our staff, the people of the community are our eyes and our ears. And when somebody calls to say, this tree needs to be trimmed, or this sprinkler has been running for 3 hours, or you know, there's a maintenance need, or something that needs our attention, we need to say, thank you very much, we'll get right to that. And not feel like somebody's telling us that we are not doing our job. Because we're doing the best job that we can, and we can't be at all places at every point in time. And we need to take advantage of those eyes and ears in our communities so that we can best do that job and get to those places that need more attention than we might have given it. And it's a difficult concept, I think, a lot of times for people providing public service. Because it feels like it starts out to be you're not doing your job, but we've got to turn it around and we can do a better job, and thank you for helping us to make that a better job.
You know, I think a lot of times, point of view, and the point of view that the way you respond to other people is you have to get to the point where you do it with that attitude that I can learn, I can,
right.
Some people are complainers, some never say anything about anything, but I think you have to assume that everybody has a legitimate reason for calling something to your attention.
Exactly.
And however they do it, you have to start with that. And I believe you have accomplished getting your staff really to think of things that way and do it. And I know the example you set that's the great example.
Well, you know, I have a phrase a couple of phrases, and they tease me about my Theresa-isms, but close the loop is a big one for me. And basically, what I mean by that and how we work through that is if somebody receives information or a call, we need to make sure that it gets to the right person that can take care of and remedy that situation. But also, when you know something that's going to affect somebody else later, we need to give each other a heads up and close that loop and making sure that everybody that's involved in that aspect of whatever that is has the heads up. And so that we're only as good as our weakest link, and when our weakest link is titanium, we're pretty strong. So that's sort of kind of how we operate as a team.
And the loop includes the feedback back that
Exactly,
it's
the
accomplished.
follow-up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you don't have to have in your mind all these things that are,
Right.
because you know when you give it to somebody, they're going to take care of it and they're going to let you know.
And that takes trust. It
does
takes
take
trust with each other, working together, and it takes trust with the community. You know, for the community to know that once they've given it to us, once they've handed it off to us, that we are going to follow up and we are going to take care of it. But in order to build that trust, we have to circle back and let them know that we've appreciated them bringing something to our attention, and here is the result of that being taken care of or accomplished. It has to be a complete circle.
And you're accomplishing a lot of that through people who are really pretty young and just starting off in their work career in a part-time basis even. Do you expect that same kind of response from them, and do they have authority to get problems solved?
Sure. And we do a leadership training, a major leadership training at the start of summer, because that's when the bulk of our part-time staff is on duty with us. But we do a couple of other trainings throughout the year. But that's exactly the perspective that it is that they're the first line or the first city employee that some people ever see, and may be the only employee that people ever encounter. And so they have authorization and authority and empowerment to do what they can to help satisfy the needs of those citizens and those people that are approaching them. And if they can't, that they have the resources to be able to direct those people or redirect them to where they need to go to find the help that they need.
It's amazing how people sometimes who are a little upset, they come to the first person and they say, well, you'll have to talk to so-and-so.
Yeah.
Well, by about the third person they're referred to, they are really upset.
Yeah.
And if you can avoid that and somebody can deal with the issues, it's...
And we do our best to try to avoid that. I'm not going to say that it doesn't ever happen, but you're right, absolutely right. And you know, we really try not to move somebody around the organization to try to, you know, to get the help they need to get them there as soon as we can with the right person to solve the problem.
Now, we were talking earlier about continuity, and you have your senior staff, the people who are each charge of each of those divisions, they've been here a while.
Our newest staff member as a division manager is 5 years here. So 5 years is a fair amount of time.
And
but
that's a person who came with a lot of experience.
Exactly. Came with a lot of experience to us. And then the other two managers, the next shortest term is 14 years, as he filled my position when I promoted. And then our third manager has 30 years of service with the city. So lots of longevity in this organization.
You know, there really is. And I think as I look at the City Hall and the people, the interaction between people, is that it appears to me the employees here like each other.
They like each other, and they like the community, and they feel supported by the council, and they feel supported by the community, and it's a good place to be.
If you had it to all do over again, would you be a teacher or would you pursue that?
I'm very happy with my life's path and my career as it developed.
Well, you're so young, you could become a teacher.
Well, and I've thought about that. Maybe you know, college level professor or something. But I don't know. We're going to try retirement on for a little while and see how that goes. And the options are always open.
Some people are able to make retirement work, and some aren't.
Right.
So you don't want to fail retirement.
No, I don't want to fail retirement. I don't want to fail anything. But I'm going to give it my best shot and see how it goes.
Well, I'm sure that's going to work out okay. What if you were giving somebody advice who was might be starting out, might be thinking of working for a city, what would you tell them about a career working for a city?
I certainly would encourage them, because I'm an advocate of service. And I suppose there's other service opportunities outside of city employment. But, you know, I think for me it's that service ethic, and recognizing that the job that you do is for the community for which you work. And that's the most important aspect. And I think the sooner that people recognize that service for a community or working for a city is not typically just, I go to work, I do my job, I go home. Most city jobs, there's public interaction. And it takes that recognition that I'm here for the service of the public.
And I know you're here sometimes at long hours, and when events are going on, you and a number of people in your staff are here early and late.
It takes that. And our staff work what we call a flex schedule, because they are here nights and weekends for various activities and events. And again, when we choose recreation, we know that that's what's included, because that's when programs happen. You know, when parents are with their kids after work, or when parents are with their kids on the weekend, or, you know, activities are on a weekend when the community can come together to special events to enjoy them.
You know, one thing I think, there are a lot of subsets of people we serve. One being the senior citizens. Why don't you talk just for whatever amount of time you want to, actually, about our senior program and what you think we offer that's maybe a little different than a lot of cities, and why people who live in the city and are seniors would want to really get involved with it.
You know, as I'm approaching
passed that.
that age, you know, I think one of the things that I recognize as a real value at the senior center is just community. And when I say community, I mean social interaction, connection to people. And I venture to say that many of the people that come to the senior center are alone other periods of time when they're not at the senior center. You know, we've got a lot of widowers, that this is their opportunity for connection. And we've got a congregate meal program that we offer every noontime, where people can come for $3 and have a lunch and enjoy camaraderie with other people.
And if they can't afford
And if they can't afford it, that's
free.
okay. It's a donation.
It's a donation or whatever.
It's a donation,
But
exactly.
The nominal
Right.
cost is $3.
Right, and the real value in that is being with people. And again, at the senior center, there's classes, there's arts classes, there's fitness classes, there's lifelong learning classes. We've got a write your own story, kind of, you know, write your own book. We've got computer classes. So there's a lot of learning opportunities. We have seminars where we bring in guest speakers, or we bring in people from the medical profession to talk about various, you know, diseases or whatever topic. Lots of seminars and learning opportunities. But the real value, I think, is just coming together and being in an environment where you have somebody else to sit with and talk with and be around people.
You know, they also have the opportunity to volunteer.
Exactly.
And a lot of people do.
And a lot of people do.
A lot of our senior program, like many other things, without those volunteers, you wouldn't be able to make the program nearly as extensive as it is.
Right, and I think what happens is people come there and they realize they've got a lot to give still too, you know, and so they pitch in and they start helping, and most of what goes on there is led by the people that are participating in the program as volunteers, but also as participants.
You know, I think people have learned in various kinds of organizations that you can have a program that's put on by somebody, and you get a certain level of involvement and people get a certain amount out of it. But programs that are put on by people themselves,
Right.
Managing it themselves, really people get a lot more out of it.
Exactly, because
And
they're engaged.
They are engaged. They have a.
Right.
It's the difference of being active instead of passive.
Right.
Even if you're sitting in a chair or a wheelchair,
Right.
you're active because you're helping create
To be involved.
the event, and it's.
Right, and we encourage people that have ideas or suggestions, well, let's try that, and how about you help us institute that idea or suggestion? And we've had a few different club groups or social groups that have formed like that because somebody says, let's have a cribbage group or something like that, and then we let them take the lead and we promote it and try to get other people involved, but yet they're the ones that make it happen.
I think the senior program, people recognize in the healthcare field, everything, this social interaction is so important, and that the ability to somehow get people to leave their home,
Right.
to go out, and that's a challenge.
It is.
What do you do? What kinds of things have you done as a Parks and Recreation Department to try to get people to draw them in from just sitting at home? And I know that's a huge challenge.
That's a hard question, and it's a huge challenge. And I guess probably the answer that I'd give to you about that is just by having a variety of activities, so that we're not focused on a single kind of program or activity, but by having lots of different things, hopefully we find something that person can connect to that will draw them in.
People have told me, seniors who have become involved in things, that if you come and show an interest, somebody's going to be hands-on keeping you involved. And that doesn't always happen because people aren't always as attentive as they should be to the fact that a person coming as a stranger
Right.
is sort of feeling their way, and unless somebody does make an effort
Right.
to reach out to them, then maybe they don't ever come back.
Right.
But a lot of people have commented that from their first involvement with any senior program, and they come because there are a variety, as you say,
Right.
and then get involved.
Right, and find the things that they like to do and meet the people that they connect with.
Yep, it's the photography group that did
Right.
the photographs of San Dimas, and they gave me a little collection of their photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they're nice, very nice pictures of San
Right.
Dimas. But I think so. I think the senior program has been one of the things that we have really greatly improved during your tenure. They've been starting around the time that you became the director, but there's been in my opinion at least, and in talking with the seniors and their reaction, your organization has done a really good job in getting people thinking they belong, and this is
Good.
something they want to belong to.
Right, good. That's good to hear, because that's the goal, is to get people to come in and to get involved and be a part of it. And I'm glad to hear that you're hearing that.
Well, I do hear that, and I think that's a great thing.
Good, good.
Now, we also have at the Swim and Racket, originally Swim and Racket Club.
Right.
Swim and Racket Club was actually built, it was in the approval process when I became a member of the city council. And it's gone through a lot of different uses, from racquetball to a lot of other things. What kinds of programs do you run there?
As you said, that facility has transitioned to through lots of different phases and activities. And one of our main programs there is our Student Union Teen Center, which is a big part of what goes on there. But we also have swimming programs that include lap swim for exercise for adults, We've got aqua aerobics, we've got aqua fit, lots of fitness swim programs, kind of activities, and some of those are senior citizen based, some of them are adult, some of them are youth. We have swim lessons all summer long, which is, to me, pool safety, life safety is a huge benefit to the community, and advocate for all children to be water safety prepared. But we also have other kind of fitness activities like aerobics and Zumba and dance and a whole workout room. And we have a free weight room where you can lift weights, you can walk on a treadmill, you can ride a stationary bike. And that weight room, as you said with the transition, is in what used to be a racquetball court. So again, as we've moved activities and programs around in the facility, we've tried to transition space so that we can still accommodate many varieties of things in this fixed space to make it all work. And it's a difficult space in that it's all concrete building, concrete walls. So it's not easy to, you can't transition.
Because it was built for the racquetball courts.
Exactly, right.
Right.
Yeah, so we're kind of confined, but we've done a pretty good job, I think, of trying to keep up with fitness trends or activities, but the core that's been the biggest metamorphosis for the facility is adding the Student Union Teen Center to that site.
Any idea how many kids actually participate in that teen center on a fairly regular basis?
On an after-school basis, we get anywhere from 40 to 60 kids in and out, and it's a drop-in program. So kids sign themselves in and sign themselves out, and it's primarily middle school kids, but we get a few high school kids too. During the summertime, we run an actual registered, we call it Teen City, which is a day camp for kids, for teens, basically. And so their level of activity is a little bit different than what we do at our other summer camp for younger kids. And we have 35 kids that are registered there every day for 10 weeks of summer. And it's filled, and it's a full activity from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. We have an excursion once a week. We have games and crafts and all kinds of activities from indoors, outdoors, that just keep kids active.
And you have at each of the, or at least I know at Extrand, at Marchand Park, you have always run a pretty intensive day program there.
We call that Kids Fun Club. So we have Teen City at the Teen Center for the teens, and we have Kids Fun Club for the younger kids, and we have that program offered at Marchand Park as well as Ladera Serra Park. But with Marchand Park having been under construction, we actually are at Extrand this summer. And we thank the school district for their assistance and help with that and allowing us to use one of their classrooms for our summer program. So they're at Extrand now, and then at the end of July, first part of August, they'll transition to the new building at Marchand Park. And in addition to that Kids Fun Club program at Marchand, we have a drop-in program at Pioneer Park. That's the Kids Fun Club programs are open from 7 to 6. The drop-in program at Pioneer is 10 to 2. And there's lots of activities that go on around that period of time, but one of the main focuses of that program is a summer food service program. So we serve a free lunch every day, Monday through Friday, for any child under the age of 18 is eligible to eat that. And that's on a drop-in basis. You don't have to register. And we also do that at the Marchand Park program. So we have a free lunch program there as well. So 2 sites for that, which is, I think, a big benefit for our community.
Do kids that want to do that, do they have to qualify for
No.
by any income criteria?
The only qualification is they have to be under age 18.
Very good.
Right.
What kind of participation do we have in those?
We get about 40 to 50 kids every day at both, well, at Marchand Park, because we've got a registration program that we're at 40 kids registered, plus we get some drop-in kids that come for lunch. So it's about 40 to 50. And at Pioneer, about 50 on average each day that come for the
It's a nice program.
It's a very nice program. And the Medina Unified School District Central Kitchen is our meal provider. And so they deliver our lunches to us at both of those sites. So it's a great again, a great community program with partners with the city and the district.
You know, I think I'd like to ask you a little bit about the partnerships that we have, because I know we have many with Parks and Recreation. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about the things that you're involved in the community, where we're providing either facilities or some direction or anything where we're kind of partnered to serve a larger number of people than we would possibly be able to serve ourselves.
You're right, there are a lot of them. And when you go from programs to use of facilities. So, you know, for instance, on programs, obviously Benina Unified School District is a large a partner with us. Partnering at the Swim and Racket Club or the Recreation Center, they use the pool for all the high school swim programs. Again, a good partnership. But also we partner with the youth organizations like Little League and AYSO Soccer and Pop Warner Football, Autism Sports League, that they use city facilities for their programs that they provide to, like you said, a larger reach on the community. Senior Center, we partner with Mount SAC. Mount San Antonio College provides us with instructors that teach many of the classes that I already spoke about. They come in and the instructors are there. Most of the classes are free unless there's a supply material fee or something like that. And the same thing at the rec center. We've got some Mount San Antonio instructors that come in and do some of the AquaFit programs for us there as well. Then we have our organizational partners, our community groups, such as the San Dimas Rodeo, where they have an office at the the Martin House in our facility there. We've got the Festival of Arts that have an office in the Walker House, as well as operating the second story gallery and providing art shows to the community through the use of city facilities. As I mentioned, the rodeo, and then they provide a rodeo at the community arena, which is a city facility. They provide that program and you know, offer that to the community. Let's see, there's the Chamber of Commerce is located in a city facility, and then all of the services that they provide to the business community, as well as special events to the general community. Who else do we have? We've got the train depot, the downtown San Dimas station. We have the Pacific Railroad Society that's our partner there, and they operate the train museum in a city facility.
We have the Historical Society.
Historical Society at the Walker House.
Walker House.
Right. I know there's a whole list.
And I know you have a very extensive relationship. You've mentioned youth sports, but Little League.
Little League is a huge part.
Has been a huge part, and then the girls softball.
Girls softball, San Dimas Youth Softball, right? I didn't mention them at Lone Hill Park.
They're growing, but long relationship with where the facilities and everything provided for the Little League. In fact, as a part of the Marchant Park general thing, you built them a snack bar that's probably actually meets health codes and things like that.
Yeah, we've done some improvements to the snack bar there and rehabilitated it as well, and the new public restroom also includes a storage area that will be dedicated for Little League use as well. So yeah, and honestly, we are so grateful for Little League and working with us through this Marchant Park project, because we recognize that it was a huge impact to their program this year. Basically, they did not have use of their two primary fields that they have their program at Marchant Park. So we helped working with the school district to improve one of the fields at Extrand to make it a little bit larger and a little bit better for one of their older groups. And then we also asked them to play at Pioneer Park and the Sportsplex as an offset for losing the two fields at Marchant. And I have to tell you that I commend them in their assistance with working through that with us and making the most of it to get their season accomplished with that relocation effort. So it's been great.
You know that the baseball field at the Pioneer Park has been used. When I was a small child, which was a long time ago, but I lived in San Dimas, and the county ran recreation programs because we weren't a city, and they ran programs, summer programs at many of the people who who actually did the on-site activities were people who were teachers
Oh, right.
in the district, which was then San Dimas Elementary School District. But it was nice to see this summer or this spring the activity that being there again, because that was always a neat
Right.
place.
Right.
That was a school. I don't know how many people in San Dimas went to San Dimas Elementary School, but it was quite a few.
Do you know there's still one wall that I think it was from the elementary school building that's on the north edge of the park?
Yes.
Right just north of the skate park area.
Yes.
A brick wall that's still
Right.
there.
Yeah, it was a brick school. It was a school, the kind that had an interior interior hallway, and these huge windows and high ceilings. I mean, it was a school. It looked like a school ought to look.
Right, right.
And it was really a great community kind of thing, because and most of the time there was, going through school in my time, my class, for example, was a little bigger than would fit into one class. So there was always like in, say, 7th and 8th grades, there's 7th, there's 8th, and then there was a mixed
A
class.
combined, yeah.
A combined class. And there were a lot of those that combined because that was about the size of things.
Right.
It was about
Right.
a small group. But it's nice to see that facility still
It
a part
is.
of, and that the city acquired it as a park, and we still run.
Yeah, it's a nice
Good
park,
programs.
and I totally agree with you. It's very exciting to see parks get used, to see activity in the parks and people enjoying the park space.
We might just take a couple of minutes. I'm not sure that people are familiar with the kind of playground equipment parks have today. And I know that we now have all of our parks, I believe all of our parks now have the new and modern,
Not all.
not all.
We still have two left to be done.
We have 4 that have been done?
Yes, we've accomplished Lone Hill Park, Via Verde Park, Pioneer Park, and Marchant Park will be done.
Okay.
But we still need to retrofit and redo Ladera Serra Park and Avenida Loma Vista Park.
I doubt that most people realize the kind of standards that you have to have, the safety kind of standards. Would you like to just tell a little bit about the challenges of like starting off with the surface,
Right.
and the equipment, and all the considerations that go into the safety issues that these are required now?
Right, right. Right, and some of our older equipment didn't meet that standard, so that's why we've really made a concerted effort to get through the whole park system and replacing those playgrounds. But yeah, from surfacing that's accessible, and it's American with Disabilities, with an opportunity to allow everybody to have access to a swing or a slide. So the surfacing needs to be accessible. It needs to have fall attenuation, which means that if you fall from a height, that there's some absorption in the surface to avoid risk of injury or higher risk of injury. And then there's things like head entrapment, which means if there's any kind of bar structure or ladder structure, anything like that, that the distances between the bars have to be a certain width so that a child's head can't get stuck between there. There's a lot of standards, and all of those, luckily, are governed by the playground manufacturing industry. So the good news is that we can't purchase anything or even design anything that's not going to meet a standard, because those playground manufacturers have taken care of all of that. But it requires that equipment needs to be updated so that we meet those requirements.
And it's expensive.
And it's expensive, right, exactly. And the more expensive part of all of it is the surfacing. The playground equipment, so let's say, for instance, Pioneer Park, that was about $160,000 to redo the playground, and we also added some exercise equipment there, some fitness equipment. So the equipment probably was less than half of that price, about $60,000. And then
that fall attenuation
Right. Right,
surface is,
right.
how long does that last?
Well, a good rubberized surfacing should last at least 20 to 25 years before it starts to see any kind of crumbling. The difficulty that we have, unfortunately, sometimes is vandalism.
Yes.
I hate to say that word because, knock on wood, in San Dimas, we are very fortunate. We don't have a lot of that. We're really lucky, and we don't have a lot of graffiti, we don't have a lot of vandalism, we don't have a lot of issues with having to take care of facilities that have been misused. But sometimes with the play equipment, they get picked at or scraped on or something like that on the surfacing that then requires patching.
It's also kind of amazing when you watch kids playing, even the things you climb on are well designed, so even if you do happen to fall,
Right.
Your chances of being hurt are not as great. And the other thing that I've always thought was pretty neat was the fact that they have governors on the merry-go-rounds.
Right. Can only go so fast. So
Yeah,
kid can't fly off.
Can't go going fast and throw somebody off.
Right. Right.
Well, there are a lot of, I think, if I look at it over your career here, it's been with facilities, with everything we have, with organization, it's just been a constant improvement. And I think a lot of that is standards are required, but I think the programs themselves, you can have equipment, you can have facilities, but the programs have to make them work. And I think you've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
And I know you don't like me to say you've done it, that the team you have really done a great job.
The team has done a great job, and I appreciate you saying that, and I'm extremely proud of the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. And part of that whole transition or whatever you call that as far as moving forward is staying relevant, and especially with programs, keeping up with what trends are, and being relevant to what people want is important.
Okay, we have about 4 or 4.5 minutes left. I'm just going to let you tell the people that whatever you'd like to say about your reflections on your career, your whole career, your career at San Dimas, things that have been good, and things that, if there have been challenges that you've had to overcome, those two.
Well, I think challenges are opportunities, and that's one way that I look at that, and that's one thing that I kind of profess to the staff that work with us, is you can be overcome by a challenge, or you can utilize it as a learning opportunity to better yourself or better the situation. And that's always been my perspective, and I think that helps get us through challenges. But as far as my career is concerned, and as far as the city of San Dimas, I count myself extremely lucky and very fortunate to have had the opportunity to be here and to grow with the community, to work side by side with the people, the residents, the volunteers, the service organizations, the council, the elected, the appointed, commissioners. It's been a very, very positive experience, and this is an enjoyable environment. We are a community that appreciates, I think, overall, that respects and understands each other, and typically we do our best. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of those people that I've mentioned that we work with, to work together and to make it the best place for everybody.
I think another thing that's, to me, is that we have been fortunate to have a city manager in these years who sets that kind of tone, but then also gives the people the directors such as yourself, the opportunity to not micromanage what you do,
Right.
but to give you the opportunity to do your job really well. But just there, I think there's a sense among the employees that the management is very fair. And,
Fair and
and
consistent.
supportive. And that altogether, that has worked very well for this
It creates
city.
that environment. You're absolutely
And,
right.
and I can only say, and I've told you this privately many, many times, because I think you could do any job in a city. You happen to do it, Parks and Recreation, and you do it very well, but I think your management skills, your people skills, and the way you approach the job, it's just been a great pleasure knowing you.
Well,
It
I
really
appreciate
has,
that.
and I think I for one appreciate you spending your career in San Dimas.
Well, and Curt, likewise, it's been a tremendous pleasure to have known you all of these years and to have gotten, to work with you through many projects and, all the programs that we've accomplished together, and I attribute a lot to the City Council, but particularly to your leadership of the City Council and your historic perspective and the way that you're talking about the elementary school or talking about whatever site or location within the city, you have perspective that takes us back to understanding how things developed and why they developed. And to me, that's very, very valuable. And I have a little bit of concern for some of our younger people that want to do it their way and don't always want to look back and learn and know how and why things happened. But to me, historic perspective is a tremendous value that we need to all pay attention to and learn from and recognize and move forward from, but also recognizing that we came through whatever it was
Yeah.
to get here.
But you can only use it as the background. You got to go forward.
Exactly.
And that's
Right.
And I think the city government in San Dimas has done that very well. And
Yes.
And again, thank you very much for all of the things that you've done all these years. And I wish you the happiest retirement anybody has ever had.
Well, thank you very much. And likewise, I wish the best for you through all of your tomorrows, and we'll stay in touch, and I'll be back to volunteer here.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And that concludes our program for this evening. I'm not sure if we're going to be back in 2 weeks or not. I have to check with Blaine and see what conflicts we have, but we will, under normal circumstances, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.